Hey y'all, I'm Allison, 30 female. Growing up, I had the privilege of being spoiled. My father, a successful businessman, provided me with a more than comfortable life. However, don't mistake my privilege for snobbery. Sure, I enjoyed the finer things in life, but I also knew the value of humility. I wasn't just a spoiled brat. I was so much more than that. Unfortunately, the moment people heard my name, their assumptions would kick in. They would turn away, assuming that I was just another entitled rich kid. It was disheartening to see how quickly people judged me without even getting to know me. As a result, I found myself lacking genuine friendships, often surrounded by jealousy instead of genuine connections. It left me feeling lonely and, at times, desperate for meaningful relationships. That's when Victor entered my life. We met, sparks flew, and before I knew it, we were married after only 3 months of dating. Stupid, I know, but what can I say? It was a whirlwind romance, the kind you see in movies. For the first time, I experienced what it truly meant to be in love, and I held on to it with all my might. Victor was my anchor, my partner in crime, and my rock in this unpredictable world. But, as they say, life is never smooth sailing. Along with my newfound happiness came the complexities of navigating family dynamics. You see, Victor's parents, Asher and Jenny, were not exactly thrilled with our relationship. They had reservations about me, their assumptions fueled by the stereotypes associated with my background. I understood their concerns, their desire to protect their son from potential heartache or manipulation or the negatives that come with living a super lavish lifestyle. But it pained me to see their judgment without truly getting to know who I was as a person. I yearned for their acceptance and tried my best to prove that I was more than just a spoiled girl. Something changed the trajectory of my life forever, and it all started on this particular day, months after Victor and I tied the knot. Jenny, Victor's mother, called me out of the blue. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was caught off guard by her unusually chipper tone. You know, the kind of tone that makes your heart skip a beat because you know something unexpected is coming your way. Jenny began by exchanging pleasantries, and then she dropped the bombshell. She wanted to go on a trip, a luxurious getaway, and her and Asher had been saving their hard-earned money to make it happen. I could sense the anticipation in their voice, the excitement of something extraordinary on the horizon. In an attempt to please Jenny and finally get in her good graces, I blurted out without much thought, "Oh, don't worry about money. I'll take care of everything." Seriously? You do that? Of course, you're my family and I want you to fully enjoy your trip without worrying about expenses. I couldn't possibly let you do that, sweetie. It's too much. Nonsense. It's all on me. I love you and I want all of us to have a good time. Now, tell me about the details of the trip. Jenny's joy was palpable. She was really happy knowing that I was willing to shoulder the financial burden. I thought that this gesture would let her know that I cared and that I wanted to help in any way I could, and she seemed to be really appreciative. Since you're footing the bill, we needn't worry about anything else. Asher and I will plan the itinerary, so don't worry about the nitty-gritty, all right? All right, Jenny, I'm so excited. We cut the call and proceeded to go on about our days respectively. The week leading up to the trip was filled with excitement and anticipation. Victor and I gushed about everything we'd get to do. It was almost like we were kids excited to go to Disneyland. Amidst all the excitement, I even splurged on first-class tickets, wanting us to arrive in style and experience the journey with utmost comfort. Finally, the day arrived and we found ourselves in the breathtaking beauty of Morocco. The vibrant colors, the bustling markets, and the rich culture immediately captivated us. For Victor, Asher, and Jenny, it was their first international trip and their amazement was contagious. Even though I had been to Morocco before, I couldn't help but fall in love with the place all over again. Being the one with previous experience in Morocco, I took on the role of a tour guide eager to show them the best spots and immerse them in the local culture. We have to explore the Djemma El Fna Square in Marrakesh. It's so beautiful. And don't even get me started on the cuisine. At first, everything seemed great. Victor, Asher, and Jenny seemed appreciative of my efforts, and we were having a wonderful time. However, things took a turn when we arrived at the luxurious 5-star hotel that Jenny had planned and booked. We arrived at the beautiful Stardust Hotel. As I started unpacking in the hotel room, Asher suddenly said I should stop. Confused, I asked him what was up. Ali, you won't be staying with us in this fancy hotel. We've got a different place for you. I was taken aback, trying to wrap my head around what he was saying. I thought he was joking, so I laughed it off and continued, but Victor, my husband, approached me and tightened his grip on my arm, silently telling me to hold on a minute. I looked to Jenny for an explanation. Jenny, with a smirk on her face, chimed in. Oh, Ali, this 5-star hotel is just for us. We found a motel online where you'll be staying. My jaw practically hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I turned to Victor, searching for answers in his eyes, but he stayed silent. My frustration grew, and I desperately tried to understand their twisted reasoning. What are you saying? Why are you doing this? Jenny and Asher wasted no time in explaining themselves. They claimed that they never really liked me, thinking I was too full of myself. This was their way of teaching me a lesson in humility. You've been spoiled for too long. You need to be humbled. I mean, seriously? Who offers to cover all the expenses on a luxury trip? And let us go first class? You just never stop, do you? You're always showing off your money. I did no such thing. I was just trying to be kind. Oh, please, Ali. We all know that you're obsessed with your money. You too? What is wrong with all of you? You think you're better than all of us, don't you? With your fancy dad and his fancy money, what would happen if he lost everything? You'd be nothing. I couldn't hold back my anger any longer. Are you kidding me? I've always appreciated what I have, and I've never acted like I'm better than anyone. I just wanted to take my family on a trip. What's wrong with that? Asher and Jenny both wore smug expressions, as if they were proud of themselves. It was crystal clear that their dislike for me ran deep. They were willing to go to extreme lengths to put me down without considering how hurtful their actions were. I turned to Victor, and for a moment he looked remorseful. I shrugged away from him and said, All of you are idiots. I guess I'm an idiot too for trusting any of you. I was so fed up and angry that I grabbed all my stuff and stormed out of that hotel room like a thunderstorm. Let me tell you, I was fuming. How could they treat me like this? As I made my way down to the lobby, my phone buzzed and I saw a notification from Jenny. Can you believe she had the audacity to send me the details of that crummy hotel they booked for me? Ugh, I couldn't even deal with it. I just blocked all 3 of them right then and there. I didn't need that negativity in my life. So there I was, stuck in the hotel lobby, feeling completely defeated. I walked up to the front desk, hoping that they had some other room available. But guess what? They were fully booked. Talk about adding insult to injury. I was so upset and didn't know what to do. I found myself sitting in the lobby, tears streaming down my face. It was in that moment of despair that I decided to call my dad. I poured my heart out to my dad. I told him everything that had happened, from the messed up booking to being left stranded in the lobby. He listened to me without interrupting, his voice filled with understanding. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that. I've always told you to be careful before rushing into a marriage. With our type of money, there are vampires always out to get us. I know, Dad. It's just I thought things were different with Victor. I thought he truly loved me. I just feel so stupid. Sometimes people disappoint us, Ali. It's a tough lesson to learn, but it doesn't define you. Yeah, I guess you're right. It just hurts so much, you know? I understand, sweetheart. But remember, you're a soldier. This setback won't keep you down for long. You're strong and you'll rise above it. I know it. Thanks, Dad. I really needed to hear that. Then my dad said, by the way, which hotel are you in? It's called the Stardust Hotel, but I already checked. They're fully booked. You know, you could easily clear out the place if you wanted to. I know, but why would I displace all these people? They deserve to enjoy their stay here, even if this place is harboring some idiots who kicked me out. The nerve. I literally paid for the hotel room and they had the audacity to kick me out. Hold on. Did you say Stardust? Yeah, I did. Why? Wait one moment, Cupcake. I need to check something. He put me on hold for a couple of minutes, and when he returned, his voice was filled with excitement. Tell those fools to get out of my hotel. What? Your hotel? What do you mean? Turns out I own the place. Wait, what? How is that even possible? It's actually quite a funny story. So I was gambling. I know you said I should stop, but it was one time, I promise. Sure. Anyways, the lads and I were gambling and my friend was sloppy drunk, completely wasted. He ended up betting on his hotel. We strongly advised him not to do it, but he just wouldn't listen. Ali, that friend of mine, is Moroccan, and the hotel in question is Stardust. I was speechless, not knowing how to react. It felt like a twist of fate, a lucky coincidence, like a deus ex machina. I'm presuming you won? Always. I never lose, you know that. I could practically hear him smirking through the phone. I don't know what to say. That's completely insane. I forgot to check up with him about transferring ownership. This game happened about a month ago, but I called him up when I put you on hold. You're insane. No wonder people think we're snobby. Well, that's just how the game works. Now go and kick those buffoons out of my hotel. Thanks, Dad. Don't mention it, sweetheart. You can stay in the luxury you deserve. Enjoy your time in Morocco and take a picture of their faces when you tell them the truth. I couldn't thank my dad enough for his support, and this unexpected turn of events, it felt like a ray of hope amidst the darkness. As I hung up the phone, a sense of resilience and determination filled me. I was ready to make the most of my time in Morocco, knowing that I had my dad's love and support, and the opportunity to turn this challenging situation into a remarkable experience. I stormed back to the hotel room where Jenny, Victor, and Asher were staying. My anger fueled my determination as I knocked on the door, demanding their attention. Victor opened the door, surprised to see me, but I didn't give him a chance to speak. I'm coming in whether you like it or not. I barged into the room and Jenny immediately started screaming. What do you think you're doing here? Didn't we already kick you out? Look, boy, she thinks that she can just waltz in here like she owns the place. Actually, I kind of do. Get a load of this. Are you so spoiled that you think any luxurious thing belongs to you? What did I tell you guys? I was right all along. If you don't get out of here, I'll just have to call security. Imagine that the daughter of a billionaire is escorted out of the premises by security. How embarrassing. Actually, Jenny, you won't be needing to call security. Jenny, they're already here. At that moment, the security guards who had accompanied me made their way inside. They began tossing out everyone's belongings, scattering them in the hallway. Asher, confused and alarmed, said, "What the heck is going on here?" It was the perfect moment to reveal the trump card I had. Well, it turns out my dad happens to own this hotel, so you can all say goodbye to your luxurious stay because I don't appreciate the plan you had to get me. What? That's impossible. When you live the type of lifestyle I do, these sorts of things aren't too outlandish. You're gonna pay for this, kid. I already did pay for this. Don't think I get any special passes. I'm a paying customer and I paid for this room. Ali, please. Oh, now you want to crawl back. I'm afraid it's too little too late. Allison, please. We don't know anything about Morocco. Where are we going to go? Unfortunately, that's none of my business. Oh, hey, maybe you could stay in that motel that you got for me. I don't think that single bed will fit all three of you, though. Maybe two of you could sleep on the floor. You're a monster. Asher, it's all of you who are the monsters. You treated me like crap, and you thought I'd let you get away with it? You're even dumber than you look. Allie, I'm so sorry. Me too, Victor. I'm so sorry that I trusted you guys. Anyways, enjoy your stay in Morocco, or don't. I don't care. And Victor, I'll need those divorce papers signed ASAP once I send them to you. I can't stand the thought of still being related to any of you in any way after what you did to me today. Jenny sobbed uncontrollably, and Asher tried to resist shouting at the guards, but he was no match for the bulky security team, who swiftly restrained him and escorted them out of the room. As they were being led away, Asher couldn't resist making a snide remark about me being a spoiled brat. My anger boiled over, and without thinking, I spat in his face. You know what, Asher? You can all go to hell. Jenny, Victor, and Asher were embarrassingly thrown out of the hotel, their faces filled with humiliation as they were escorted by security. A couple of hours had gone by, and they were stranded on the side of the road as they desperately Googled hotels that could accommodate them. They tried to reach out to me, probably realizing the gravity of their actions, but since I had blocked their contacts, they resorted to sending me desperate emails, revealing their failed attempts at finding available hotels. I read their emails, but I had no interest in engaging with their apologies or pleas for forgiveness. I called my dad to update him on the situation. Dad, you won't believe what I'm seeing right now. I can spot Jenny, Victor, and Asher from my window. They look so lost and helpless. I think they've been looking for a hotel for some time now. I'm surprised that it's taken them this long. Well, my dear, about that. Oh, God. Dad, what did you do? I've taken matters into my own hands. I made a few calls and called in some favors. Their names are blacklisted, making it nearly impossible for them to even secure a reservation at a decent hotel. Dad, that seems a bit extreme, don't you think? They've already faced the consequences of their actions. Extreme? Maybe. But no one messes with my baby. They thought they could toy with you and make you suffer. They needed to learn a lesson, and I made sure they did. They won't forget this anytime soon. I appreciate your protectiveness, Dad, but I hope you didn't go too far. I don't want them to suffer endlessly. Don't worry, sweetheart. They'll get the message loud and clear. Sometimes people need a taste of their own medicine to understand the impact of their actions. Trust me, it's for the best. Well, I can't deny that it feels good to see them in such a predicament, but let's hope they learn from this and change their ways. I don't want this to define them forever. Let's hope they reflect on their behavior and make some positive changes. In the meantime, enjoy your well-deserved peace and solitude. Thanks, Dad. You're the best. Always, my love. Remember, you're strong, resilient, and deserving of happiness. Don't let anyone bring you down. As fate would have it, Jenny, Victor, and Asher found themselves back at the same dingy motel they had originally booked for me. Can you imagine the irony? All their scheming, and they ended up experiencing firsthand the discomfort they had intended for me. It must have been a bitter pill for them to swallow, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I was alone in that big hotel suite that we were supposed to share. It was kind of weird, to be honest. On one hand, I felt this incredible sense of freedom, like I could do whatever I wanted. But on the other hand, it was also a bit lonely. Sitting there in this fancy room, I couldn't help but think about how everything had unfolded and how I ended up here all by myself. As the days passed in that fancy hotel suite, I couldn't help but still feel a bit lonely. But you know what? It was way better to be lonely than to be surrounded by fake people and their toxic energy. I had this moment of clarity where I realized that I deserved better. So a few days later, I mustered up the courage and emailed Victor the divorce papers. And guess what? He tried to reconcile, begged for another chance and all that, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I knew I deserved more than his empty promises and lies. I was determined to enjoy my time in Morocco without him. When I finally returned home after spending my hard-earned money in Morocco, I got rid of all Victor's stuff. I didn't care if he and his family decided to run back home from the mess they created. You know why? Because I realized there's so much more to life than seeking validation from people who don't even deserve a place in my world. I embraced my freedom and chose to focus on building a life that's authentic to myself. I surrounded myself with positive influences and pursued my passions. I learned to let go of toxic relationships and value myself. Each day, I felt stronger and more empowered. The scars from the past started to heal, and I discovered a newfound love for myself. I learned that true happiness comes from within, not from seeking validation from others. Morocco taught me valuable lessons, and I held onto them as I moved forward in life. With determination and a smile on my face, I took the next steps towards my happiness. I left behind the toxicity and embraced a future filled with self-love and authenticity. Hi, I'm Nia and I'm 27. So let me tell you about my mother-in-law situation. It's been a wild ride, to say the least. See, Jamal and I met when he was already estranged from his family for a good couple of years. That meant I never had the pleasure of meeting his mom, Suri. And boy, was that a touchy subject for Jamal. I was always curious about his family and wanted to know more. I mean, who wouldn't? But every time I tried to bring it up, Jamal would get all defensive or change the subject. It was like he had built this impenetrable wall around his past, and I was left with more questions than answers. Our conversations about this estrangement were like walking on eggshells. I'd tiptoe into the topic, hoping he'd open up and share some juicy family gossip, but nope. It was like hitting a brick wall. He'd shut down or explode with anger. Talk about frustrating. He'd respond like, "Nia, you don't get it. My family is a whole mess, and you don't want to get caught up in that drama." "But babe, we're a team. I want to understand your history and be there for you. We can handle anything together. Just drop it. I don't want to talk about it." It was tough, you know? I wanted to be the supportive partner, the one who would listen and help Jamal navigate his complicated family stuff. But he was so guarded, like he was protecting some deep, dark secret. And I was left feeling like an outsider, trying to decode his past. Deep down, I could see the conflict in Jamal's eyes. He had this yearning for a different kind of family, one that he never got to experience. But at the same time, he carried his heavy baggage of disappointment and hurt. It was like his past had left a scar on his heart that he wasn't ready to expose to me. "Jamal, I get that it's tough for you, but I'm here for you no matter what. We can face anything together, remember?" "I know, Nia. It's just complicated. Maybe one day I'll open up about it, but for now, let's focus on building our own little family, okay?" And that's how we rolled. I learned to be patient and respect his boundaries, even though it drove me crazy not knowing the whole story. I knew deep down that when he was ready, Jamal would let me in on his family's secrets. Until then, I held on to the hope that our love and understanding would break down those walls one day. Well, 7 years later, that day came. Picture it. Our cozy little home filled with the sounds of laughter and the scent of homemade cookies wafting from the kitchen. Life was humming along nicely for Jamal and me, 9 years into our marriage. Our 2 children, Erin and Echo, were growing up so fast, bringing us immeasurable joy. We were building a life together, making more money and finding success in our respective careers. It felt like we were living the dream. But then, Out of the blue, our peaceful existence was shattered by an unexpected knock on the door. It was a seemingly ordinary day, the sun shining brightly, casting a warm glow through the windows. Little did I know that this knock would change everything. Curiosity piqued. I made my way to the door, anticipation mingled with a hint of caution. Who could it be? Maybe a neighbor with a misplaced package or a lost delivery person? As I turned the doorknob, I was greeted by a woman I had never seen before. Her appearance alone set off alarm bells in my head. Her weary eyes spoke of a journey, and her clothes showed signs of wear and tear. I could sense desperation lingering in the air. Before I could even open my mouth to ask her who she was and what she wanted, she said, "Nia, who are you? How do you know my name?" I know this must be a shock, but I'm Jamal's mother, Suri. I've been searching for him, and I used the last of my money to find my son. I don't know where else to go. Please, just hear me out at least. Suri, Jamal's mother, the woman who had been absent from his life for so many years, was standing before me. A flood of questions surged through my mind. Why had she chosen now to reappear? I felt torn between protecting my family and giving her the chance to explain herself. Without hesitating, I closed the door slightly and reached for my phone and dialed Jamal's number. I told him what was going on, and his voice sounded concerned, tinged with a hint of frustration as he answered. "Nia, whatever you do, don't let her in." "But she's right here, and she looks like she hasn't showered in days. And I doubt she's eaten either. She needs help." "I swear to God, Nia." "I'm letting her in, at least to sit and rest." Before he could argue with me, I hung up. Taking a deep breath, I looked Suri in the eyes and made my decision. "All right, Suri, you can come in, but I want you to know that Jamal is not happy about this. Make it quick." She entered and requested a glass of water. I gave it to her, and she latched onto it like she hadn't seen water in days. She looked worn out, like she had been through hell and back. Finally, I asked her what her deal was and why she had been absent for so long. Suri took a deep breath and started pouring her heart out. She explained that life had been incredibly tough for her over the past 9 years. She had experienced homelessness, struggled to make ends meet, and battled with drug addiction that had cost her jobs and stability. "It was tough for me. I was lost. But I'm better now. I'm clean, and I'm not getting into any trouble. I want to turn my life around and start new, and that means reconnecting with my son." I was floored. I had no idea about any of this. I couldn't believe that Jamal had kept such a painful secret from me. Suri's revelation hit me like a ton of bricks, and I realized the extent of Jamal's pain and the scars he had carried silently. It all stemmed from his turbulent upbringing, bouncing in and out of foster care due to his mother's struggles with addiction. Tears streamed down Suri's face as she confessed the regrets and remorse she felt for the choices she had made. She acknowledged the pain she had caused Jamal, her son. It was a raw and vulnerable moment. I was torn between anger and compassion. The anger bubbled up inside me, thinking of the hurt Suri had inflicted upon my husband. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the genuine remorse in her eyes. She seemed sincere in her desire to make amends and start fresh. As I looked at Suri, her tear-streaked face filled with regret, my heart softened a bit. I couldn't help but wonder if forgiveness and healing were possible. Not just for Jamal's sake, but for all of us. The anger still lingered, but empathy began to surface. We talked a bit more, and I was thinking that it was time for her to leave and perhaps return when Jamal felt comfortable. But before I could say that, I heard the familiar rumble of his car. Things certainly took a dramatic turn when Jamal stormed into the house. He didn't even bother to park his car properly. Such was his urgency to confront the situation unfolding inside. His face was twisted with anger, a sight I had never seen before, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I knew we were in for a heated exchange. As soon as Jamal laid eyes on his crying mother and me, he wasted no time in expressing his frustration. "I told you not to let her in here." And just like that, our calm household was engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions. Naturally, I defended my decision, arguing that Suri had promised to explain herself and that I couldn't simply turn her away without hearing her out, especially since he didn't tell me anything for the past 9 years. The tension escalated as our voices grew louder, each of us desperately trying to get our point across. "What do you expect, Jamal? I haven't known anything for 9 years, yet here she is, telling me everything within seconds of meeting. I told you that I wasn't ready to talk about it. I told you not to let her in, and you did anyway. How am I supposed to trust you?" "Jamal, sweetie, don't you dare." "I've changed, I promise." "Yeah, like I haven't heard that one before." "This time I'm being serious, I swear it. I swear it on my life." "What good is it swearing on your own life? You're already dead to me." "Jamal!" "Stay out of this, Nia." But then, to my utter surprise, Suri's demeanor took a sudden shift. She morphed from a remorseful and tearful woman into a sly and cunning fox with a bitter tone. She said, "Baby, you know that I love you. I gave birth to you for Christ's sake. I at least deserve a little respect." I couldn't understand how Suri could switch so drastically from remorse to cockiness. But what surprised me even more is what she said next. "Jamal, I demand that you divorce this woman and kick her out of your house." Both Jamal and I were confused. It felt like a slap in the face, leaving me stunned and hurt. I looked at her, searching for answers. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Shut up. I'm not talking to you." And then, with a manipulative glimmer in her eye, Suri began to twist the situation to her advantage. She turned on the charm, trying to win Jamal over with fond memories of their past and the promise of a happy family. "Jamal, do you remember late evenings with Aunt Claire? How we'd sit on the porch drinking lemonade in the summer?" "Yeah, I remember. But that only happened because you were out of drugs. Otherwise, you'd never hang out with me." "That's all in the past now, sweetie. I promise you I've changed. I'm doing better. We can go back to these memories, all the happy ones." I wasn't falling for any of this baloney, but when I looked over at Jamal, there were tears in his eyes. Her words were like a siren's song, enticing Jamal into her embrace. As I watched my husband falter, his tears streaming down his face, I couldn't help but acknowledge that this was how toxic their relationship was. She had a hold on him, and she was using it to her advantage. My heart sank as Suri continued to push her agenda, urging Jamal to divorce me so they could rebuild their lives together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could she ask him to just throw our marriage away like it's no big deal? I mustered up the courage to respond, my voice tinged with hurt and disbelief. "Suri, seriously? These accusations are ridiculous. I would never stand in the way of a mother trying to reconnect with her son. But telling Jamal to divorce me is not the answer. We can figure out a way to make things work without tearing apart what Jamal and I have built together. What is your problem with me?" But Suri wasn't giving up. She kept insisting, her voice getting more determined. "Jamal, you have to do as Mommy says. She's just trying to protect you and bring our family back together. Nia is just standing in the way, making things complicated. Don't you want to go back to how it was when things were good between us?" I felt my heart break as Jamal's resolve started to waver. He turned to me, his voice trembling, and said, I think maybe we should get a divorce." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a punch to the gut, a betrayal I never saw coming. In the heat of the moment, frustration and hurt poured out of me. I raised my voice, desperately trying to make him see reason. "How can you let her control you like this? Just a little while ago, she was begging and crying, and now she's acting all cold and dismissive towards me. If you let her back into your life, she'll mess with your emotions all over again. Can't you see that? Jamal met my gaze, his expression a mix of defiance and confusion. He shot back, defending his decision. You don't get it, Nia. Our bond is different. There's something between us that you'll never understand. I need to give my mother another chance, and you're making that impossible. Jamal, you were right, okay? I never should have let her into the house. I just wanted to hear her out. I didn't know that she was like this, but now I see what you mean about her. She has to leave if she's going to act like this. You see, she's already trying to separate us. Kick her out already. Nia, you need to go. I'll send over the divorce papers when they're ready. But you can't be here, okay? Are you being serious right now? Super serious. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized that the man I loved, the man I had built a life with, was slipping away. The pain of his words cut deep, leaving me feeling helpless and betrayed. A month after filing for divorce, just chilling in my hotel room, when suddenly I heard a knock on my door. I cautiously approached the door, wondering if I should open it. But curiosity got the better of me and I swung it open. And guess who was standing there? Suri looked like a hot mess. I mean, she was all disheveled, eyes wide with panic, and she was practically shaking. Before I could even get a word out, Suri blurted out, "You need to come back. He's crazy." Suri, what's going on? I made a mistake. I never should have done what I did to you. You think? Please help me. What's going on? She went on to explain that he was losing it, breaking things, and acting like a total lunatic. Just this morning, he held a knife to my neck. He must have been having a breakdown or something, because he snapped out of it and apologized casually, like he didn't threaten my life. I came here right afterward. I haven't been sleeping because I was fearing for my life. What the heck happened to him? He was fine a month ago. I mean, last time I checked, he wasn't on any drugs or anything. So what gives? Suri started sobbing, telling me she had no clue what was going on. Apparently, ever since I left, Jamal had been on his rampage. Filled with anger and frustration, who knows what else. She had tried to reason with him, but it was like talking to a bomb that was on the verge of exploding. So, what do you want me to do? I need you to come back. I don't think so. What? But he's your husband. Ex-husband, remember? You're the one who instigated it even. Yes, I know, but nothing, Suri. You made your bed and now you gotta lay in it. I can't stay in that house a second longer. If you're not coming back, he'll kill me. Suri looked like a wreck. She looked much worse than the first time I saw her. Wait, hold up. Plot twist alert. Brace yourselves, because what I'm about to reveal might just blow your mind. You see, as I stood there listening to Suri's plea for help, a mischievous grin slowly spread across my face. Why, you ask? Well, it turns out that Jamal and I had planned this whole thing together. Yep, you heard that right. You see, when Jamal said he was super serious about divorcing me, I knew right then and there that something fishy was going on. Super serious was our little inside joke, a phrase we used when we were planning something sneaky or surprising. It was our secret code. So let's rewind a bit. On the day that Suri came over and demanded that Jamal divorce me, I decided to play along. I left the house acting all upset and hurt and checked into a hotel room. Little did Suri know Jamal was in on the plan too. A few hours later, Jamal joined me at the hotel, and that's when he spilled the beans. He revealed that he had been plotting to mess with the person who had been emotionally abusive to him all these years. And who better to help him than his partner in crime, yours truly. We concocted this plan to fake our divorce, with me staying in the hotel while Jamal played the dutiful son, putting on a show for Suri. It was a way for us to turn the tables and teach her a lesson. After all, they say revenge is a dish best served cold. But let me tell you, it wasn't all smooth sailing. We had to keep up the act, even when things got tough. There were moments when I wanted to spill the beans and reveal our grand plan, but we had to stay strong. We knew that in the end it would all be worth it. And boy, was it worth it. We watched from the sidelines as Suri fell into our trap, believing that she had won. Little did she know she was playing right into our hands. It was a thrill to see her reactions, to witness her confusion and frustration. Now, I know what you're thinking. Was it a bit manipulative? Maybe. But sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, and trust me, Suri had it coming. She had caused so much pain and turmoil in our lives, and it was time for her to face the consequences. So there we were, playing our roles to perfection. Jamal, the devoted son, and me, the heartbroken wife. It was a masterclass in deception, and we were the star performers. As we continued with our little charade, we couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. We were finally taking control of our own narrative, reclaiming our power and standing up against the one who had tormented us for too long. But let me tell you, dear audience, this story is far from over. The twists and turns are far from finished. So buckle up, because there's more drama, more surprises, and more lessons to be learned. And believe me, you won't want to miss a single moment of it. So if you can't go home, what are you going to do? I guess I have to return to my homeless lifestyle. This is exactly what I didn't want to happen. Is there any way I can live with you? Go to hell, Suri. You're an awful person, and I'm glad that Jamal gave you a taste of your own medicine. I'm glad that he tormented you. Serves you right for all those years of abuse and neglect. My name is Aisha, and I'm 67 years old. Let me tell you the story of my life after my husband passed away and I moved into my son's house. In some cultures like India, China, Saudi Arabia, it's common for parents to live with their children, whether they're sick or widowed. It's a tradition that I find beautiful. However, in America, things are different. You see, my son Ahmed was married to a woman named Natalia, and he thought that she was amazing, but I thought differently. I watched her closely, and I was sure she was only interested in my son's money. It really upset me. I tried to warn Ahmed, but I'm sure you know love can blind people. Whenever I told him, Mama knows best, he ignored me and insisted that Natalia loved him and their relationship is genuine. I have to admit that my son is stubborn like me, and he won't believe the truth until he experiences it himself. So I stopped telling him that Natalia is bad news. It hurt me to see him being deceived so openly, but sometimes people have to hit rock bottom to understand the reality of their situation. My late husband was a wealthy businessman, and we owned several properties, including the house Ahmed now lives in. It was a birthday gift to him when he turned 25. Technically, it's a family house because all three of our names are on the deed, but Ahmed seemed to have forgotten that. I'm sure Natalia was under the impression that the house was strictly Ahmed's, and so she got the gall to treat me so poorly. Her presence had only made things worse, as I had to endure her rudeness and witness my son's inability to handle her. It was a difficult situation for me. I wanted to protect Ahmed from being taken advantage of, but I also know that he needed to learn on his own, so I watched silently, hoping that one day he will see Natalia's true intentions. Let me tell you, it was not easy living under the same roof with someone you didn't particularly care for. Natalia made no effort to hide her disdain for me. She often questioned my presence in the house as if I was an intruder in my own son's home. The audacity! I kept my composure, mostly, but that resolve began to dissolve soon. I had gotten used to her rudeness, but every once in a while she would make things even harder for me. It felt like she enjoyed ruining my laundry on purpose, pretending not to hear me when I needed her assistance, and even making intentionally bad food for me when Ahmed wasn't there. Now, let me make it clear that I don't let people walk all over me. I confronted Natalia about her actions, hoping to make her understand, but as usual, she acted innocent. Our conversation went something like this. Natalie, we need to talk. I've noticed your disrespectful behavior towards me. It's time we address this issue. Oh, Aisha, what do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. I've always treated you with the utmost respect. Don't play games with me, Natalia. I see right through your facade. Your actions speak louder than words. I demand an explanation. What is your problem with me? You're just being overly sensitive, Aisha. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I assure you I have no ill intentions. Enough is enough, Natalia. I won't tolerate your BS any longer. You will respect me and our home, or there will be consequences. Our home? I'm sure you mean your son's home. This isn't your home, Aisha. You need to get that through your head. Without dignifying her disrespectful behavior, with a response, I immediately went to Ahmed to talk about the situation. I have to admit, I was quite upset, and my voice may have been loud. Ahmed tried to calm me down, but I wasn't ready to listen. I wanted Natalia to leave the house. Mama, please, let's talk calmly. There's no need to get so worked up. Worked up, Ahmed? Your wife is driving me crazy. I can't live like this anymore. She ruins my belongings, ignores my requests, and disrespects me at every turn. How can you let your mother be treated like this? You have to divorce that witch. Mother, you and I both know divorce is not an option for us. I don't want to bring shame to our family. We can work things out, I promise. Work things out? Ahmed, sometimes it's better to cut ties with a leech rather than let it drain the life out of you. Our happiness and well-being should be a priority. Tension filled the room, making the atmosphere heavy. Ahmed struggled to find the right words, torn between his love for Natalia and his loyalty for our family. I could see the conflict in his eyes, but I knew deep down that he cherished our mother-son bond. Despite my frustration, I took a moment to compose myself. I realized that pushing Ahmed further could strain our relationship even more. I needed to find another approach to handle this situation, to protect my son without causing irreparable damage. The following day, Ahmed called both Natalia and me to discuss in the living room. He expressed his concern about the growing hostility between us and emphasized that the constant arguing needed to stop. Natalia, in her usual dramatic manner, started crying and claimed that living with me had been incredibly challenging because she felt unappreciated. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her fake tears. I knew she was trying to manipulate Ahmed and portray herself as the victim, so I spoke up, unafraid to express my thoughts. Stop with the theatrics, Natalia. Your tears won't fool me. You're crying to pull at Ahmed's heartstrings, but I see right through your act. Ahmed, frustrated by the tension, pleaded with me to stop being unkind to Natalia. However, I stood my ground, firmly stating that Natalia was nothing but a manipulative person after his wealth and that he should seriously consider ending his marriage. Seeing an opportunity, Natalia started crying even harder, which caused Ahmed to raise his voice at me for the first time. He threatened to make me leave if I couldn't behave respectfully. My heart sank as his words stung me deeply. I couldn't believe how much Natalia had influenced him. Feeling a mix of anger and sadness, I impulsively stood up and slapped Ahmed across the face. The room fell silent as tears filled my eyes. Wow, Natalia has truly changed you, hasn't she? You never would have spoken to me like this if she wasn't here. I hope you're happy with yourself. Overwhelmed, I retreated to my room, frantically searching for the important documents left behind by my late husband. I needed to find the title deed of the house, which clearly stated that the house belonged to me, Ahmed, and his father, as I mentioned earlier. There was also a clause stating that if Ahmed acted rudely or disrespectfully, he would lose ownership of the house. You see, Ahmed used to be a troublesome and spoiled child. Both his father and I wanted to teach him about responsibility, so we decided to give him a house that he had to take care of. We added the clause about disrespect because we anticipated that Ahmed might lose his privileges within a year. We hoped for the best but prepared for the worst, which is why that clause was included. To our surprise, Ahmed had been responsible and maintained ownership of the house since his 25th birthday. However, that clause still held weight, and now I had to consider whether it was time to remind Ahmed of his responsibilities and the consequences of his actions. As I searched through the papers, my heart raced. Revealing this clause would undoubtedly have serious repercussions on our relationship, but I couldn't stand idly by while Natalia manipulated and controlled my son. I needed to protect him, even if it meant taking drastic measures. After hours of searching, I finally found the papers confirming the validity of the clause in the title deed. It didn't specify a time limit, which meant it remained in effect. Holding on to this information, I decided to wait for the right moment to disclose it, strategically planning my next steps. Meanwhile, I came up with another plan to expose Natalia's true nature to my son. Inspired by the true crime shows I had been watching, I decided to record my conversations with Natalia. I purchased a small recorder specifically for such moments, ensuring that I had evidence to support my claims. Mama always fights smart, my friends. A week passed and the house was filled with uncomfortable silence and tension. The atmosphere was suffocating and it felt like everyone was tiptoeing around. But I knew Natalia's downfall was imminent. I just needed the perfect opportunity to present itself. Then, one day, I sensed that something was off, and sure enough, Natalia was the cause. Unexpectedly, she entered my room, radiating an unsettling energy that my intuition couldn't ignore. My heart raced with anticipation, and discreetly, I pressed the record button on my hidden device. I was ready to capture her true intentions. Natalia approached me with false confidence and said, "I think it's time for you to go." I maintained my composure, hiding my excitement behind a calm expression. Deep down, I knew this was the moment I had been waiting for. With the recorder capturing every word, I responded with a smile, careful to choose my words wisely. "Oh, Natalia dear, what makes you say that?" "Face it, old lady, you're ruining my plan." "What plan?" "I plan to take all of your son's money." "Duh!" "Ah, so I was right when I said you were a gold digger." "Some call it a gold digger, others call it being opportunistic. Tomato, tomato." "Wow, so these are your true colors, huh? Fascinating." "You know, you never respected me." "Why would I? I could see right through you the moment you walked into my son's life." "I guess the game recognizes the game, huh?" "Oh, please, you think you and I are the same?" "But of course. Why else would you marry such a wealthy man?" "Because I loved him, Natalia. That's something you know nothing about, and you dare to come here and talk like a crazy person? Why are you acting as if I won't expose you to my son?" "Because I have something important to tell you, Aisha. You thought I was joking when I said it was time for you to go? Little do you know." "Spit it out, Natalia. I'm getting sick of your games." "Pack your bags. I've convinced my dear old doting hubby to put you in an old age home." Natalia began to laugh, somewhat manically too. "I told you she was a witch. I let her enjoy her moment of glory because I knew that in a few seconds it would all come crashing down." Noticing my lack of response, she asked, "Why aren't you weeping? Did you hear me, you senile hag? You're going to be locked up in a retirement home until you join your husband." "I heard you, sweetie. Don't worry." "Don't you want to know how I got Ahmed to agree?" "Well, if you must tell me." After your little scene last week, I started convincing Ahmed that you were slowly losing your mind. What, because I slapped him? Yeah, well, he seems to disagree after I told him that the behavior was not normal and that you were slowly becoming psychotic due to old age. And he believed you? I can be pretty convincing when I want to be. I told him that you also lost your mind when you lost your husband, and that's why you've been mean to me. So you see, Aisha, you're no longer going to be living here. Once you're gone, it will be easy for me to sink my claws deeper and deeper into your son. By the time I'm done with him, you all will have nothing. Again, she finished her statements as if she had truly won. But little did she know. Nice try. What do you mean, nice try? I've already won. I gotta say, if I didn't hate you so much, I might have commended your antics. Why are you acting like that? You should be shaking right now. What? You thought that I was going to cry? You think that I'm pusillanimous? Like you? I don't even know what that means. Of course you don't. Girls like you don't even bother trying to expand your knowledge. You just rely on being a leech to get by, which is disgusting and pathetic. How dare you? I'm going to tell Ahmed that you hit me, and then you'll be kicked out for sure. Oh, Natalia, you still don't get it. I approached her and I slapped her. Go ahead, tell him. At least you'll be telling the truth this time. You slapped me. I can get you arrested. I dare you to try, especially after what I have to reveal to you, because when I'm done, you'll regret all the things you've said here. I revealed everything to Natalia, telling her that this entire conversation was being recorded for the sole purpose of exposing the truth. I also told her that she had no right to even attempt to kick me out of the house, considering that I was part owner. Pack your and your hubby's bags, Natalia, because you're no longer welcome in my house. To my surprise, she fainted in shock. I suppose hearing her plans unravel before her eyes, coupled with the impact of our conversation, was too overwhelming for her. As I gazed at Natalia lying unconscious on the floor, a complex mix of satisfaction and disappointment washed over me. I felt satisfied because I finally had the evidence necessary to expose her true nature, but at the same time, I was deeply disappointed that my son had fallen prey to her manipulations. Ahmed rushed into the room, drawn by the loud thud, his face filled with panic as he tried to revive his wife. Despite the chaos, I remained composed. Mama, what did you do? Ahmed, I know you're upset, but please. You're crazy. Aisha was right about you. I should have put you in a home sooner. You're losing your mind. Oh, stop that, will you? Put her in the recovery position and come to me. She'll be fine. I already called the ambulance. Ahmed reluctantly stopped panicking and came over to me. There's something you need to see and hear. Ahmed, still in a state of shock, looked at me with a mix of confusion and concern. What are you talking about, Mama? We need to get Natalia to the hospital. We can't just leave her here. Just as Natalia regained consciousness, confusion and fear crossed her face as she struggled to grasp what was happening. Before she could utter a word, I pressed the play button on the recording device, allowing the incriminating conversation to fill the room. Natalia's lies, schemes, and true intentions were exposed for Ahmed to hear. As the recording played, shock transformed into anger on Ahmed's face. The weight of Natalia's deception sank in, and he directed his gaze at her, a mixture of disappointment and fury evident across his face. How could you do this, Natalia? Oh, the lies, the manipulation. I trusted you, and you played me? Natalia, fully aware of the evidence stacked against her, struggled to come up with a believable response. Her attempts to make excuses faltered in the face of the undeniable truth. Ahmed's voice trembled with a mixture of concern for Natalia and his growing anger as he shouted at her. I watched him, feeling a combination of sympathy and determination in my heart. Ahmed, my son, I'm sorry it all had to come to this. The paramedics arrived and transported Natalia away despite her hurling insults at me and desperately pleading for Ahmed to take her back, a counterintuitive reaction, I must admit. I understood that the journey ahead would be difficult for Ahmed. However, I firmly believed that he needed to learn these lessons on his own, just as I had hoped. The house, a symbol of responsibility, would remain in our possession, patiently awaiting Ahmed's personal growth and maturity. Can I say it? Say what? I told you so. Yeah, I guess you can. I think I'll hold on to it for now. I can see you're hurting. I loved her, Ma. I know, baby, I know. I guess you were right. You really do know best. At that moment, I felt a huge sense of relief and hope. The truth had come out, and though we had some healing to do, I knew we would come out of it stronger. I had faith that my son would understand the importance of making wise choices and treating others with love and respect. I also made up my mind to remove my name and his father's name from the title deed. Ahmed had proven himself to be a responsible and honorable son, despite all the challenges we faced. Natalia, after her hospital visit, was physically fine. The doctor said her fainting was due to shock and stress, but despite that, she persisted in trying to win back Ahmed by showing up at the house whenever she pleased. Luckily, I was there to protect Ahmed from her manipulations. I made sure she never set foot in the house again. I knew Ahmed was vulnerable and I didn't want him to fall for her tricks and let her back into his life. I was determined to shield him from any further heartbreak. Amidst all the chaos, I decided it was time to address the house ownership issue. I reminded Ahmed about the clause in the original title deed that required him to be respectful to keep ownership. But I also wanted to give him a fresh start, a symbolic gesture of leaving the past behind. So I handed Ahmed a new title deed with only his name on it. I told him he deserved it after going through so much pain and turmoil. Tears filled Ahmed's eyes as he realized the significance of this gesture, recognizing his growth and strength. We hugged each other, and at that moment, all the bitterness and tension melted away. Ahmed looked at me with a slight smile and said, "You still haven't apologized for slapping me." I chuckled, realizing that our bond had weathered the storm. "Do you want me to put my name back on the title deed?" We shared a heartfelt laugh. In the end, things worked out great for Ahmed and me. Our bond became even stronger, and he learned some valuable lessons about love, trust, and being smart about who to trust. As for Natalia, she kept trying to win Ahmed back, but he stayed strong in his decision to move on without her. Life went on, and Ahmed thrived, building a new life full of happiness and success. Natalia, well, she had to face the consequences of her choices and slowly became a distant memory. And as for me, I stood by my son's side, proud of the amazing man he had become. We were grateful for our strength and the love that carried us through it all. Hello, I'm Nora and I'm a 35-year-old woman. Today I want to tell you about an experience I had that left me feeling shocked and angry. But before I get into the story, let me tell you about how I came to own my own home. When I was in my early 20s, right after I graduated college, my parents got into a horrific car crash. My mom passed away on impact while my dad was rushed to hospital where he was alive for about a month. Somewhere in that month, my dad gained consciousness and asked for a lawyer. He wrote up his will, and in the will, he stated that I would get the house as soon as I got married. I didn't debate anything. I was too distraught to care about what I would get in case my dad left me. I just wanted him alive. I hadn't ever imagined my parents leaving me this young. I remember that when my dad gained consciousness, I was so happy. I thought he would definitely live. But shortly after writing his will, he suffered a cardiac arrest and was gone. I was inconsolable, Relatives from all over flew in to attend the funeral and offer me support. My parents had left me a good amount of money, and that, along with the money I was earning from my job, allowed me to rent a pretty cozy apartment. I wasn't really crazy about the idea of marriage, and I didn't think that I wanted my parents' house that bad yet. I didn't want to live in constant memory of their absence, so I didn't pursue a relationship for a very long time. I think it was in my late 20s that I happened to meet my husband, Sal. Sal and I lived in the same apartment complex. He had just moved in, and I happened to run into him in the lobby. He was struggling to carry his bags, and I helped him out. We got to talking after that, and talking eventually turned into going on dates. Living in the same complex made staying over at each other's place even easier. Since we were both older and knew what we were looking for, I guess we just knew that we were forever. About a year into dating, Sal asked me to marry him. Since we were already engaged, I realized I hadn't met Sal's parents at all. I knew that I would have loved to take Sal to meet my parents if I had the chance to, so I asked him about it. Sal was more than ready to introduce me to his parents. Although he did warn me that his parents were very traditional and conservative, I didn't mind. I just wanted to be fully involved in Sal's life. The day I met Sal's parents, I actually understood what Sal meant when he described his parents. His mother was silent and never made eye contact with anyone, while his dad literally commanded the room. Whatever his father wanted, his mother ran to give it to him. I found it odd, but I just figured whatever worked for them. Then Sal's dad, Jeff, asked what arrangement we planned to pursue after marriage. "So, how do you guys plan on working after marriage?" "What do you mean?" "As in, will you keep working or will you become a housewife?" We were discussing me becoming a stay-at-home wife because Sal makes way more than I do." "Good. That's how it should be. Women shouldn't even be allowed to work. Their role is to be at home and make sure everything is perfect for their hard-working husbands." "Dad!" "Excuse me? But I think that's a very outdated view. Women are allowed to do whatever we want because we have proven over and over again how competent we are. So gender shouldn't have to be a factor that determines our worth." "Say what you want. Women belong in the kitchen and that's it. I'm sure Sal will put you in your place eventually." I chose not to say anything because I didn't want to cause any drama right before Sal and I got married. But I was wildly uncomfortable. I didn't participate much in conversation after that. I felt bad for Sal's mother. Poor thing was worked to the bone, and I don't think she ever received a word of thanks in her entire life. Sal saw how uncomfortable I was and made an excuse to leave immediately. He told his dad that we had to move into our new place the next day, so we had to get as much sleep as we could. I awkwardly bid goodbye to them and was relieved when we were out of their presence. Of course, Sal was apologetic for his dad's behavior, but honestly, I was just glad that Sal was nothing like him. Sal told me that he watched his mother suffer and promised himself that he would never treat his wife that way. The next time I saw Sal's parents was at our wedding. I made as little contact with them as possible, although I heard from some guests later that Sal's dad had a lot of problems with the dress I was wearing because it was too revealing and not very wifely. Again, I didn't want to ruin family relations that early into the relationship, so I didn't say anything, nor did I let Sal say anything. The next 2 years were amazing. I got to create a lot more happy memories in the house I grew up in. It felt like I was at peace with everything that happened, and I was accepting my reality a lot better. And then one night, Jeff called us to tell us that Sal's mother had passed away suddenly in her sleep. He didn't want an autopsy done, so we just went over for the funeral. Sal was inconsolable, but I was there with him throughout. At the wake, Jeff asked us if we would be willing to let him stay with us for a month because he wasn't ready to go back to an empty house. Sal and I excused ourselves to talk over it. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if it's a smart idea to let my dad into our house for so long. Sal, your mom died and your dad is struggling. A month isn't that long. I know, it's just, you know how he is. I don't want him to say or do something that will hurt you. You're my first priority. Oh, I doubt he'll do anything like that. Please, my mom probably passed away because she was tired of living with him. I know you're grieving, but that's a really rude thing to say. Maybe your dad will learn how lucky he had been with your mom and he'll change. I don't know. It's just a month, okay? It'll be over before you know it. Fine, but I'll be at work most of the time. So if he does or says something hurtful, I give you full permission to do or say whatever you want, okay? Got it. Letting Jeff move in was more than a big mistake. The evil stepmother from Cinderella had nothing on Jeff. He was demanding and controlling. He would have me clean everything twice a day. If I didn't do it, I would have to hear him yell and grumble all day long. Sal and I usually trade off cooking during the week. We alternate it, mostly because we both have very different tastes in food, and we like to introduce each other to new tastes. Well, Jeff didn't like that. He demanded that I make the food because I was the wife and I lived under Sal's roof. I don't think he knew that the house was mine, but I wasn't about to break the news to him when he was already going through a tough time. I had a feeling that it would break him. If Sal made the food, he would not eat. If he wasn't grieving the loss of his wife, I would never have accommodated him. Sometimes I would even surprise me while I did the work he forced me to do. During those times, he would compare me to his wife and how his son deserved someone as submissive as her. One time I made the mistake of rolling my eyes at him while he recounted a story about how his wife had made food for him as soon as she had come home from giving birth to Sal. Needless to say, Jeff lashed out at me really hard. Sal told me over and over again to talk back. Whenever Jeff did or say anything while Sal was around, Sal would immediately put his dad back in his place. Jeff didn't like that. He thought I had brainwashed his son into believing that he had to do womanly chores. Speaking of womanly chores, I remember how appalled he was when he saw me assembling this bookshelf I bought from scratch. He yelled at me for emasculating his son. The only reason I didn't say anything was because I knew that Jeff needed a place to stay and needed to grieve the loss of his wife. I just thought that this was his way of processing her loss. Plus, Jeff was family and I didn't want to abandon him like that. Eventually, his 1 month at our place was up. As soon as Jeff left, Sal and I sighed a huge breath of relief. Bet you're glad he's gone, huh? I have to admit I am. Although, what? Your dad didn't seem to know that this house was under my name. He didn't? No, that's why he kept making me do things. I thought it was because you were a woman. Oh yeah, that was part of it too, but he would keep bringing up how I was living under your roof. Well, if he ever stays over again, which I hope doesn't happen for a very long time, you have my full permission to tell him that this house is yours. Are you sure? I feel like that will kind of make him really angry. Who cares? He doesn't care about how you feel. Give him a taste of his own medicine. We'll see. If he does anything that upsets or angers me, I'll do it then. Sal and I enjoyed a blissful year free of Jeff. Sal would call Jeff every once in a while to check up on him, but that was about it. Of course, Jeff would try to ask Sal if I was doing my wifely duties. but Sal would cut him off by making up some excuse about being busy and hanging up the phone. I think that was the reason for Jeff to do what he did next. He must have thought I wasn't doing my work or something and decided to take matters into his own hands. One night, Jeff wasn't feeling too good, so he drove himself to the hospital. Jeff had struggled for years with joint pain but refused to see a doctor about it. Anyway, that night, his pain was too much for him to bear and he went to the doctor. He was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. He was prescribed this treatment and was asked to be with someone to help him out. So Jeff reached out to Sal and told him to house him for the next few months until the treatment was done. Let me be a little clear. Jeff didn't ask Sal if he could stay with us. No, he told Sal that he had to house him. Sal was peeved about it, but I convinced him to let his dad stay with us. Sal wasn't very enthusiastic about it, but I reminded him that his dad was struggling, so it was the least he could do. By the next week, we were once again housing Jeff. He arrived at our place in the morning and he barely looked my way. I was the one that opened the door for him and he just walked right by. I tried to pick his bags up, but he just growled at me and asked Sal to pick his bags up. We were annoyed, but this was going to be our life for the next few months, so we had to put up with it. Well, unsurprisingly, Jeff went right back up to his routine from a year ago. He demanded I clean everything and yelled at me for not preparing the house for his arrival. He had Sal take him to the hospital to get his treatment and demanded that the house be cleaned and food be made by the time he came back. Sal was not taking any of his crap, so after they left, Sal texted me and told me to go out and enjoy myself. He told me that we'd order takeout and his dad would just deal with it. I was happy. I didn't mind. I thought, what would Jeff even do if I didn't do what he asked? Yell? Ha! Like I haven't heard enough. Well, I was kind of wrong. I checked in on some of my friends and asked if any of them were free to grab some lunch. A couple were, so I went out and enjoyed my time. When I got home, Sal and Jeff were back. Sal greeted me with a hug and a kiss. He asked me how my day was and happily listened to me. Jeff, on the other hand, looked furious, but surprisingly, he said nothing. I had to admit I did find that very suspicious, but I let it go because I was happy to not have to listen to him yell at me. That night, when Sal and I were getting ready for bed, Sal confessed to me that he had had a word with his father. I have to say I'm surprised that Jeff didn't say anything about me not doing his work today. Oh yeah, I spoke to him about it. What did you say? I just told him to watch his mouth or he'd get thrown out of the house. Sal, that's so rude. That's what he said too, but I also told him to be grateful that we're housing him and that it wouldn't kill him to be nicer to you. I can't believe that he actually listened to you. I know, right? Even I couldn't believe it. Well, if this lasts, we'll be able to live in peace. Oh yeah, I hope it does. I had naively thought Jeff had seen the error in his ways. I was actually really happy about it. I was hoping that Jeff and I would be able to build a better relationship now, but that obviously wasn't about to happen. The next morning, Sal and I headed out to do a little grocery shopping. When we returned, we were greeted by Jeff surrounded by my suitcases. Jeff, why do you have my suitcases? How did you even get them? Oh, they were under your bed and I just packed them for you. Excuse me? Son, I've been trying to tell you this for the longest time. You deserve someone better than this lazy woman who's just bumming off of you. She's not bumming off of me. What makes you think she's doing that? Oh, please. She never does any work around the house. She chooses to do all the masculine work instead of cooking you dinner. You have to eat food from out or cook it yourself to not starve. That's not how a good wife works. But I do cook and clean. I just don't do it as frequently as you'd like me to. Besides, Sal isn't a baby. Cooking food every once in a while isn't going to kill him. Son, do you see how she talks to your father? This is why I want you out of my son's house. What makes you think this is your son's house? Of course it is. He's the one that's working his butt off while you sit at home and look pretty. Oh, I agree he works hard, but he does not own this house. I do. Ha, you're lying. You'll really do anything to throw my son under the bus. I'm not lying. Ask Sal yourself. Son, she's not lying. She's had this house before we were even in a relationship. What? Oh, I'm so sorry, Nora. Save it, Jeff. Anyway, we waited those 2 weeks so that the effects of the treatments would kick in. Jeff barely experienced any pain and was actually looking a lot better. So one day, when he approached me to apologize, I finally spoke to him. Nora, please, just hear me out. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Thank you. I just wanted to apologize for the way I behaved. I didn't know that this house was under my name. And if it wasn't, you would never have apologized and you would have actually tried to kick me out of the house, right? Nora, please, I made a mistake. No, Jeff, I made a mistake. I made a mistake of letting you in my home again after the last time and thinking that you would have changed. So I've made a decision. Please don't kick me out. I won't kick you out under one condition. Is this really how you treat family? You set conditions for them to live with you? I don't think you get to lecture me about how to treat family, Jeff. My only condition is that you have to be the one that cleans up the common areas, so that's the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room. For every day that you don't, you have to pay me a day's worth of rent. That's outrageous! You can't expect me to do all that when I'm suffering. If your wife could do it right after giving birth, so can you. You either do it or you get out. Where's my son? I'm sure he'll be against this. Oh no, he's fully on board with this, so good luck. I left Jeff standing there and didn't interact with him again for a while. From what Sal told me, Jeff tried to talk to him about it, but Sal just told him that it was my house and my rules. Ha! It was Jeff's ideology thrown right back at him. Anyways, Jeff reached out to various other family members to complain about how we were abusing him. A lot of them reached out to us and called us a lot of names, but we stood our ground and told them the full story. We also told them that if they truly felt that passionate about Jeff, they could be the ones to look after him. Some of them apologized and gave Jeff a good lashing out for yelling, while others just left me on read. Either way, I was left with peace again. Jeff tried to stick to the plan, but couldn't because of how tiring it was. I asked him if he understood just what he was expecting of me. He scowled at me and told me that since I'm a woman, my body was made to handle these kinds of work. I didn't want to deal with him any longer, and so I told him to pack his bags and get out of my house. Jeff said he gladly would, and the next day he was out of our hair again. He had gone to stay with a friend of his until his treatment was done. He called Sal a couple of days later to tell him that he would not get his house as part of his inheritance. Sal told Jeff to keep his house because he had a better one with me and ended the call with that. I did feel bad that I had ruined Sal's relationship with his dad, but Sal assured me that his dad was the one who ruined it and not me. Now, Sal and I live a comfortable and happier life. I don't have to deal with any yelling or nagging. Last I heard of Jeff, he got kicked out of his friend's house too for being a nuisance. I think he stayed with some other family after. I hope he'll be better for his sake, really. Anyways, I guess I just wanted to tell you this story because sometimes you have to put your foot down regardless of who might get hurt. Sometimes it's family that treats you the worst. And you need to set a healthy boundary so you don't get used or humiliated. Always stand up for yourself and those that love you. Thank you for listening. Hello, I'm Denise, a 31-year-old woman who just got divorced. I never thought that I'd ever be divorced because I thought I was in the happiest relationship of my life. But when I looked closer into it, I realized that my marriage was very far from perfect. A lot of things contributed to it, so let me start from the beginning. I met Peter through a mutual friend. We hit it off pretty well from the start. Peter was a very attractive man with a very attractive personality. We began seeing each other and then dated for a good 4 years before deciding to get married. Everything in our relationship was pretty smooth sailing. Peter and I shared a lot of the same values, and in general, both of us were very accommodating of each other. The only issue we had was Peter's parents, Orla and Dave. They were nothing short of evil. The first time I met Orla and Dave, neither of them even glanced my way. When I got to the dining table, there were only 3 plates set out for the 3 of them. I was confused and very humiliated. Peter didn't speak up for me. He just kept his head down and looked away. I had to bring up the fact that I didn't have my own plate, and Orla acted dumb before saying that she had forgotten that I was there. Dinner after that wasn't any easier either. Orla and Dave pretty much ganged up on me and humiliated me. Peter was silent the entire time. Looking back, I guess that should have been an indicator of what my marriage to him would have looked like. I sat through every comment, and I was more than ready to go back home. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to yell at Peter for not even having my back and warning me about his parents, or at least speaking up for me, or if I just wanted to curl up in bed and cry. The drive back home had been silent. When we got back home, I gave Peter time to apologize, but he never really approached me about it. He continued about his night as if his parents hadn't just spent the night humiliating me. So I decided to talk to him about it. We need to talk. I was actually just going to sleep. Stop running away from things like a coward, Pete. Who are you calling a coward? You. Who else? I mean, you definitely don't have a spine of your own. You just let your parents crap on me, and you didn't say anything all night. Well, what do you expect me to say? Did you really expect me to disrespect my parents in their own home, which they had graciously opened for us? Don't try and guilt me into suppressing my emotions. You know how your parents are. Couldn't you have warned me? And I'm not even asking you to disrespect your parents. You could have just asked them not to talk to me that way. My parents aren't anything like yours. They're different, and they would have taken me speaking up as disrespect. Are you seriously still defending your parents? Obviously, they're my parents. Do you even feel bad for what happened to me? Can we not do this? Seriously? I'm going to go to sleep. Good night. Peter left me standing there. I was hurt and upset. I couldn't believe that Peter didn't even feel bad for me. I hoped that Peter was just feeling embarrassed, which was why he was reacting this way. I went to bed feeling pretty empty. When morning came, Peter acted like everything was fine. It peeved me at first. I didn't speak to him for about a week. I was mad. I didn't want to let go of my anger until he apologized. But that apology never came. I knew that it wasn't a hill I was willing to die on. I didn't want to let go of my relationship with Peter over that, so I started talking to him again. I tried my best to put his parents' behavior and his negligence behind me. It became an unsaid thing, but after our first visit to Orla and Dave's, we never went back or even made an effort to meet them. The next time we saw them was at our wedding. At our wedding, I pretty much avoided Orla and Dave like the plague. I tried my best to have as little contact with them as possible, but eventually I had to talk to them. They walked up to us at our reception to congratulate Peter and me on our marriage. There's my handsome son and his wife. Congrats, son. Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks. So what plans do you have for your honeymoon then? We were thinking of going to Hawaii. Why not some place abroad? Oh, we don't have the budget for that. Nonsense. We'll fund it. Seriously? Yeah, but we have one condition. We'll join you guys and make it a vacation instead. Of course, that would be amazing. What place do you have in mind? We were thinking of Paris. That would be great. Denise has always wanted to go, isn't it? Yeah, excuse me, I need to go to the washroom. I was not happy with this. I wanted time alone with Peter. I mean, isn't that what a honeymoon is all about? Hawaii wasn't Paris, but it's still a beautiful place, and it was a place that I've always wanted to visit too. I didn't like that Peter just decided without even stepping away to ask me. I tried my best to let go of my feelings and enjoy the night, but I really wasn't feeling the mood anymore. I rode out the rest of the reception and rode back home with Peter quietly. I was drained of all my energy and had no energy to talk to him about why I was upset. I slept over it, and the next morning I still felt crappy about it, so I told Peter about it. I need to talk to you about something that's been bothering me. What is it? It's about the honeymoon plans. I felt like you decided without considering how I felt. Come on, my parents' offer is fantastic. You have to admit it, Paris is a dream destination and you always wanted to go, right? It's not about the location. It's about the fact that we didn't even discuss it. A honeymoon is a special time for us alone. Well, we'll have alone time eventually. Right now, it's a great opportunity and we can't pass it up. Okay, but you know how your parents treat me. Is this really a smart decision? Look, my parents are trying to be nice. Stop overthinking things and ruining this for us. I just wanted us to have a say in our honeymoon. Is that too much to ask? You either come or you don't. Don't think of all the negative aspects. Look at it as a chance to explore a new place with me. I don't want to hear any more of this. I have to admit that it hurt to hear Peter talk to me that way. Would he really be okay with me not coming along with him on this honeymoon turned vacation? I decided to just suck it up and go. The vacation was set to happen a month after our wedding. When the day came, we met with Orla and Dave at the airport. They greeted me with so much friendliness that I was caught off guard. They were unusually nice and caring. Since I was thrown so off guard, I guess I kind of closed myself off. They were nice for the first week in France. We still had another 3 to go. I was beginning to get used to their sudden change of behavior. But then they slowly started going back to their old ways. It started off with them making fun of what I was wearing. Orla would ask me if I thought that what I was wearing was smart. And some days they would make plans to go to these fancy places where they would deliberately exclude me from going in with them because they thought my clothes were embarrassing. Keep in mind, I was dressed more than decently and even got complimented for it by the few French people we interacted with. Then they started leaving me out of things for no reason. They would take Peter with them and go off with him for a good portion of the day and not tell me about a thing. I think I spent a good portion of my time at the hotel itself. Then came the comments about my weight and what I ate. If I ordered anything other than salad, Orla would make jabs at me. All the while she was stuffing her face with steak. Throughout the entire thing, Peter would never say anything. Sometimes I'd even catch him holding himself back from laughing. I was honestly more than ready to go back home. I counted down the days till it was time to leave. I couldn't keep hanging out with Peter and his parents. His parents bullied me relentlessly while Peter just ignored everything. I knew that I was going to have to talk to Peter about this later too, because every time I tried to talk to him, he never seemed to understand or want to hear about it. On our last day there, I decided to get Peter and my passports and tickets all organized together. Peter handed me his tickets, but when I asked him about my tickets, he said he didn't have them. It was odd that Orla and Dave hadn't handed me my ticket, but I was so absorbed with surviving this vacation that the weirdness of the situation never really got to me. Anyway, I went up to Orla and Dave's room and knocked on the door. Orla opened the door. "Hey, Orla, we'll be leaving tomorrow, right?" "Oh, yeah, Peter, Dave, and I will be leaving in 4 hours." "What? What about me?" "We forgot to buy your ticket. Whoops." "Whoops? Is that all you have to say? How could you possibly have forgotten to book my tickets?" "Calm down, Denise. We'll buy you your own tickets. It's okay." "No, it's not okay. They can't keep pushing me to the side and you can't keep supporting them." "Peter, she can't buy the same tickets as us." "What do you mean?" "All tickets on our flights are sold out." "Great. What are you going to say about this, Peter?" "I'm sorry." "No, sorry won't work. What's your solution?" "First of all, stop hounding my son. Talk to him with respect. Secondly, figure out your own solution. He's not responsible for your issues." "Peter, would you stay back at least?" "But I want to go to Turkey." "He's coming with us. Figure out your problem yourself." I was beyond shocked by this news. As Peter and I left their room, I tried asking him over and over again to not leave me alone. But he just looked away from me in embarrassment. He told me that his parents had paid for this trip from their retirement fund for him, and he wasn't going to disrespect them like that. I didn't say it at that time because I was so appalled. But all I could think about was, what about how your parents are disrespecting your wife? I watched Peter pack his bags through tears. He barely looked at me or even apologized. He never even offered to pay for my ticket back. I had half a mind to cause a scene, but at the same time I was humiliated enough. When it came time to leave, Peter walked away with his head down, while Orla and Dave gleefully waved me goodbye. I was mad. I was fuming. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck in an entirely foreign country all alone. Peter didn't stay back with me either. I was mad at all of them. I tolerated their behavior and all their quips for the entire month. I tolerated Peter not saying anything. I was done. I needed to get revenge, and I knew just how to. You see, as soon as Peter was financially stable, his parents retired. They had taken an assumable mortgage to transfer to Peter when he was stable. They transferred the mortgage to him once they retired. Now, Peter didn't have that kind of money to spare. It's why he still lived in an apartment. He was drowning in debt and the house was on the brink of foreclosure. So he nominated me to be the next owner. I earned more than him and had excellent credit. I contacted my best friend, Pearl, to tell her of my situation. Her husband, Terry, was a lawyer who specialized in property issues. I got on a conference FaceTime call with them and worked out a proof of how I had been the one paying off the mortgage ever since Peter nominated me. As soon as Peter transferred the mortgage to me, he stopped paying or even contributing. I was okay with it at first because I figured that this was the first time in a long while that he had money to spare at the end of the month. He blew all of his money on a lot of useless things. I didn't say anything until I realized 6 months had gone by and not once had he contributed towards his parents' mortgage. When I did say something about it, he lost his temper with me. He berated me for being jealous that he was living the life I had lived earlier before I took on mortgage payments. In hindsight, I should have realized that that probably should have been something that rang alarms about how he would be as a husband. Anyways, talking to Pearl's husband, Terry, helped open my eyes to all the things in my relationship with Peter that were questionable and even borderline insane. My God, Denise, how did you not realize how horrible Peter was before you even got married? I don't know. I actually don't know. I guess I loved him and didn't think he could do anything wrong. Okay, but he literally used you to pay off his home. You have to admit that that's a little insane. I know, but what do I do now? We can very easily transfer the house in your name. Can we? Yeah. You've been paying it off for over a year. You just have to contact the bank and get his name removed. You know what? I'll do it. And I'll have you an eviction notice drawn up so you can throw them out. How long will it take? Oh, you don't have to worry about it. Terry's got his contacts. He'll handle everything before you're back. You guys are seriously the best. Thanks a lot. You just have to promise us you'll be alert next time and that you won't let anyone use you like this. Oh, I promise, but I think it'll be a while before I trust someone new again. I knew that Peter and his parents had a 36-hour layover in Turkey. They planned their trip that way because they wanted to stay at the hotel at the airport in Istanbul. I was excited initially to be a part of it, but now I'm grateful I'm not. It gave me extra time to be home before them and serve them with an eviction notice. I booked my flight home and was lucky enough to get a flight in a couple of hours. The entire flight back home, I was a crying mess. I couldn't believe that this was what my life had come to. I had loved Peter with everything I had in me. I hated that I had overlooked every flaw in Peter, and this was how he repaid me. Not once did he call to check up on me. The only thing that consoled me was the satisfaction of throwing all of them out of their own house. For a brief moment, I wondered what they would do. The three of them would have to squeeze into Peter and I's apartment, but our lease was going to be up by next month. I knew they didn't have that kind of money to rent another apartment immediately after this trip. But then I remembered that they had been the ones to abandon me without even thinking about whether I would have been able to come back home. If they could do that to me, I could do it to them without feeling an ounce of guilt. As soon as I landed back home, I checked on Peter and his parents' flight status. They were going to leave in about 2 hours. I didn't care that I didn't get much sleep. I was running on the adrenaline of getting revenge. The first thing I did after getting out of the airport was drive straight to Orla and Dave's house. They kept a spare key under the mat, so I used it to get in and Gresham up. Then I got my laptop out and found the best divorce lawyer in my vicinity. I filed for a divorce and contacted Pearl to tell her that I had reached out. She and Terry came over so I could sign some paperwork to remove Peter's name from ownership and to sign the eviction notice. Seeing them brought over all the emotions I had been trying to suppress since I landed. I hated coming back to the place where there were only reminders of Peter everywhere. But Pearl and Terry were my friends, and we'd been through thick and thin together. They let me cry out my feelings for a while. When they left, I checked on Peter's flight and saw that it would take them another hour to get on the plane. I decided to take some time to sleep. I needed to not look like I was a mess or struggling. I struggled, but eventually I fell asleep. When I woke up, I realized that I had slept for about 10 hours. I quickly got dressed and ready. I went to the divorce attorney's office and collected the divorce papers. When I got back, I had to wait about an hour before Peter and his parents came back. My heart pounded as the time drew nearer to their return, but I knew I had to stay strong. When they got back, they were surprised to see me there in their house. What are you doing here?" When did you even get back? Babe, I was trying to call. Save it. You didn't try anything. To answer your questions, Orla and Dave, I got back yesterday and I came here for a reason. Make it quick. We're all tired from traveling and we want to get some rest. Well, I want you guys out of my house. Your house? What are you even talking about? Stop wasting our time. Get out. Oh no, you guys need to get out. Don't you dare talk to my parents that way. I won't as long as they get off my property. This isn't your property, Denise. It is now, since I've been paying the mortgage off for the past year. What? Peter, what is she saying? We thought you were the one who was paying it off. For God's sake, we gave you the house because you said you could handle the payments. Well, he couldn't. He nominated me as an owner and I had it off. I threw him off the owner's list because he hadn't paid a cent towards it, and now the house is mine. So get out. The three of them stared at me in shock and disbelief. They tried to plead their case and begged me to let them stay with me, but I told them that I had had enough of their bullying. I told them to get out or I would get the police involved. Right before they left, I handed Peter the divorce papers. I told him I didn't want to be with someone who would gladly use me for his gain and not ever stand up for me when I most needed it. Peter tried to apologize and begged me not to leave him, but the hurt was too much to continue to stay with him. I watched them leave and my heart was full of satisfaction. It would be a while before the hurt and betrayal completely cleared out, but at least I had taken control of my situation. I didn't let either Peter's or his parents' actions get to me or define me, and in my books, that's the biggest win of them all. It's been a couple of months since all of this has happened. Peter tried to contest the divorce, but he quickly realized how expensive it was going to be for him, so he backed off. The last time I heard about their situation, I found out that they had stayed with a bunch of relatives before they could afford an affordable place. Orla and Dave went right back to work so they could support themselves. It sucked that they were struggling, but this is the lesson they learned from messing with the person that was helping them. I've been happier ever since I threw them out of my life. Yeah, sometimes memories of everything they did to me come back, but I always let the satisfaction of my revenge comfort me.